Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're dialing in from. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's inheritance. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, nor his bondman, nor his bondwoman, nor his manservant, nor his womanservant, nor his horse, nor his carriage, nor the instruments of his labor, nor the produce of his land, nor the things that he has made, nor the treasures that he has in store, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Thy desire shall not be upon them, to take them by stealth, nor by fraud, nor by cunning, nor by violence. Neither shalt thou covet that which belongeth to the stranger that dwelleth within thy gates. But thou shalt improve thine own, and thy desire shall be into it. Lest thou be corrupt, and the hand of thy neighbors be against thee, and the cry of the poor ascend to God against thee.
Isn't it interesting that we're told your desire shall not be upon them to take them by stealth, you're doing things undercover, or by fraud, you're lying, or by cunning, treachery, or by violence. They came and colonized us and shot us and enslaved us and so on and so forth. So that is the 10th commandment. Now let's go into some discussion. See me, Brother Nick. See me, Michael. Good to see you guys.
Amen.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Hope you're doing okay, everybody.
Good, good.
All right. So what are your thoughts about this commandment as you're reading about it? Go ahead, Nick.
Kia ora, everyone. Siami, everyone. I think it's when you actually read the book of law compared to the what's being written in the Bible, it's really a dead giveaway. And the reason why they wouldn't want to put this in the Bible scriptures because they're doing totally the opposite from what it says in the book of law. Considering the fact that it's talking about the strangers and coveting the lands, they came and invaded the lands, so they wouldn't want to put that in there, would they? They wouldn't want to put the the instruments of his labor, so they took all of that. Well, what I mean by that would have been the produce of the land too, because that's what we were good at, producing on the land. I'm saying that for as a solidarity because we were people of produce and knew how to produce food from the land. The other one would be their treasures. So who came and took Judah's treasures and treasures of the Congo? In the land of Jerusalem and in the land of Africa. So all their treasures have been taken. And there would be the same for any other treasures that have been taken from any other lands or from the islands. Resources and stuff as well. They had a desire, and upon them to take by stealth, to me, by stealth would have been they would have had they would have plotted this a long time ago, and she probably like had a council and said to each other like, how are we going to do this? So we'll do the stealthy ones and we'll be their friends first. We'll come and be like their neighbors and be friends, and then we'll introduce them into the missionaries. So to me, that would be the way I, in my opinion, would be the missionaries coming in and then spreading the word of Christ in their churches, and by doing that, they were introducing that to our people. And what did they do? They ended up pretty much killing in the name of Isaiah Congo, pretty much, and they did it by violence. And anything that it's just a dead giveaway, but it's a big subject, but it's also a dead giveaway because you can just tell that there is no way they would want to put this in the Bible scripture. There's no way. Because they know that well, I would say Satan knows what he's up to, isn't he? Anyway, Ingita family.
Ingeta. Thank you, Brother Nick. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mama Emma, go ahead.
Hear me, everyone. All praises to the Most High. Oh, yes. Okay, I found a lot, and this was interesting. In the beginning, or in a beginning. So, in the beginning of the existence of human beings or beings called humans, or also in the beginning of beings called mankind or a kind of man. Okay, so anyways, those are some thoughts. And then, of course, I'm starting in a beginning. Enoch 1, chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. The 200 angels took an oath to descend to Mount Hermon, find women to marry, and have children with them. Okay, that's a summary of those verses. So, a couple key words: descend, Mount Hermon, and then Mary. So I'm going to start with Mary because our understanding of Mary is the consensual relationship between a man and a woman. Okay, but I looked up this word and it says Mary, caused to meet or fit together, combine, and then it says two halves are trimmed and married up. And then I looked up the origin of the word Mary, or the etymology of it, and it's Middle English from the Old French, M-A-R-I-E-R, excuse me, M-A-R-I-E-R, from Latin, M-A-R-I-T-A-R-E, from maritus, literally married, and as a noun, husband. So it's like, oh my goodness, so they husband the women that they lusted after. Okay, so that's what I got from that when I saw, okay, as a noun, husband. How can Mary be husband without wife? But anyway, these are questions and information. Okay. Then I went to thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's inheritance. So I didn't look up covet, but I looked up neighbor. Neighbor, a person living near or next door to the speaker or persons. reference to, and I usually don't put these in, but I put this down because our garden was the envy of the neighbors. It's like, okay, the people who are in charge of our English dictionaries and the information and translating our Bible. So why would all of a sudden they use this as an example of neighbors? Garden, envy, neighbors. So we're talking about the original beings that descended to Mount Hermon to husband the women they lusted after, which is probably covered in the definition of covet. Okay, so let's go on with my research. Okay. Some of the synonyms for neighbor: adjoining, bordering, let's see, approximate, not far away, in the vicinity, close proximity. Okay, and the reason why I looked at the synonyms for neighbor is because the story that we are delving into, and we come all the way down to man walking on the earth, and the Most High restoring, or in the process of restoring, his original creation. So in the original creation, it says the Most High decided to separate light from darkness. And in that, it talks about the proximity of the heavens and the earth, and the beings and their connection to the heavens and the earth. And some of the references, I didn't put them in this, but what I'm thinking about now is talked about the giants. And one description of the giants that I read was that they were so tall that their head touched the stars. Because we don't get any of that in some of the references that we'll look at. This is, I glanced at one of the books that they're releasing called The Giants, the Book of the Giants. So anyway, and also Mud University, have anybody seen those studies? But anyway, that's where I get that reference. Okay, so origin of the word neighbor, Old English, from ni'ah, nigh, or near, plus geber, inhabitant, peasant, farmer. Compare boor, but they spelled it B-O-O-R instead of B-O-E-R. Okay, so then the next word I looked up was inheritance. All a part of a person's estate, assets that is given to an heir. Okay, when I think about heir, and I've done word studies on it, means seed. And the word seed in the Hebrew is the letter nun, mem. And mem represents water, blood, or continuance. And so all these things are in the beginning, the water, and later on blood because of what Abel did, and then the continuance of cohabiting with the angelic beings and the terrestrial beings. Okay, the next one, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Okay, house. So I looked up house, and it says bayit. It's a Hebrew word for house. Okay, I'm getting. Okay, I'll come back to that. So these are the foundations of the things that's going to help me to understand uh, all of the commandments. And now we're at the end of the 10th commandments, and how all of these things are ingrained within the last commandment uh, that are also in the previous commandments. And again, it goes back to if you have other gods before me, then all these other commandments are going to be easy to be broken. Get it.
Thank you so much, Mama Emma. Wow. Mm, this is deep. This is deep on so many levels. Oh my goodness. I like the way you took it from the beginning, you know, from the beginning when, those fallen creatures, I don't even want to call them angels, when they, you know, first began by coveting, by lasting, on our sisters. Elder Michael, go ahead, Michael.
Jamie family.
CME.
It's coming behind Sister Emma. It's gonna be something. She laid it down right there. I tell you, the main word that stood out to me was inheritance. And just like Mama Emma, I just went to looking, and I tell you, the main the main uh the main thing that stood out to me were a lot of the synonyms for inheritance. But the one of the main definitions that stood out was the reception of genetic qualities by transmission from parent to offspring. That just resonated with me a little bit. And then the acquisition of a possession, condition, or trait from past generations. That kind of goes hand in hand with what Mama Emma was talking about. And so another one, which kind of still is just came with the word possession. And I really didn't kind of put inheritance with some of these definitions because of how, just usually using it. But reading the book of the law, it in contrast with the scriptures, that's the first thing it says is not to covet thy neighbor's inheritance. To me, that was so different because the scripture doesn't say anything about inheritance. So that's when I went and I just had to dig a little deeper because, well, if it's really significant, I mean, it has to be significant because it's the first thing it says not to. And going back and forth, it's quite different from what the scripture says. So with looking back and saying, well, why wouldn't it be put and why I didn't even do it. I just said for whatever reason, it's too many. So those synonyms, you got heritage, legacy, you even got birthright. Now, when I saw birthright as a synonym for inheritance, all my hair stood on my head. I would tell you, and I said, well, maybe I'm going a little bit beyond. Maybe I'm just digging too far. Maybe I'm seeing things that I shouldn't, or I'm making them into something that it's not. And then I just trashed all of that and just told them thank you. And hearing Mama Emma, where she go and where she went, oh man, I tell you, it just resonated with me, and it just culminated all these other synonyms for this word. So I tell you, these these times is really they're great for me because it's so much learning. And then so it's more than learning. It's like opening my inner eyes. You know, things that are right in front of our eyes sometimes aren't aren't seen with those. They're seen with that inner eye that only can be open and also translated by him upstairs. So I really, really, really appreciate you, Mama Emma, because when you got to go and talking about back back in the beginning, and you got to um, going and digging in these words and where you just connecting them all together. You basically took majority of the stuff that I was even having questions about, and you just brought them to life. But that word inheritance, that was the biggest thing that stood out to me. And the second was how, you know, everything uh in this particular passage, or should I say this particular law, they all tie together. And it's in a stark contrast to what we're getting given in the script. But to read this in depthness, it shines a light of understanding. Man, it's being very specific. I mean, very specific. I'm gonna stop right there and let somebody else go because man, I could go on and on with this one because there's so many questions and I got a few written down. But
Before you
I'll
go,
say,
Michael, could you
yes.
repeat the first description you read of inheritance?
Okay, the very first one, the reception of genetic qualities by transmission from parent to offspring.
Reception of genetic qualities.
By transmission from parent to offspring.
Man, that got my brain going so fast that I could not even capture it in writing. And
I
my
put so many question marks around that.
yeah, we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. But that was very, very nice analysis of that word inheritance. We will come back to several aspects of that. I've got thoughts about Cain versus Abel,
Oh man, I
Esau
can't wait to
versus
hear.
Israel, and on and on. We definitely need to come back to that. Mama Shelley, go ahead. But thanks, Michael. That was really good.
Oh,
Really good.
Wow, that is very interesting. And yeah, I can't wait till we get back to that one. That's a lot. I just wanted to say that yes, I agree. Someone had said earlier that they could see why they wouldn't put this in the Bible, and I totally agree. They're breaking everything in this 10th commandment. Everything from the word go, they're breaking it. And they still are, because they're coveting our lands, our wealth, our everything, and they're taking it. They've been taking it, and they continue to. So yeah, they definitely would not want this in there because this is just exposing them completely. I also looked at the Decalogue, number 7, where it said in the Decalogue after, it said, God created all the land for man. Man made none of it. Why should he sell it? There is enough for all. If they will but go and possess it, why take that of any man when there is countless millions as good unoccupied? And I thought that is so true. And that is, I like how he started off. God created all the land for man. Man made none of it. It's like it's so true. And what right did they have to take ours and still want to claim ours? I mean, the boldness of them. They're still in South Africa claiming part for themselves, and they want to even claim that whole thing and say no, no blacks allowed. Well, they do that, but and then they want to claim that whole piece and have um their own nation within a nation. you know, have their own government and everything. It's like, are you serious? You know, and then we don't get started on that one again, but I mean, you know, the boldness of these people, and they do it so openly, and they act as though they have a right to do it, and they're entitled to do it. And when we speak against it, it's how dare you? This is our right. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, they definitely would take this out of the Bible. They definitely would not include it, because including this at all, you know, put them in a bad position, and everybody could see that, okay, you just very big hypocrites here. Another thing that came to me was when they talked in Deuteronomy and Exodus, they both mentioned don't covet your neighbor's wife. And you were right that this commandment doesn't say anything about that. It doesn't say anything about your wife, because your wife is in a completely different category. Like you did say, it was your wife is, you know, that's adultery. And this just goes back to show how they treated their women. Yeah, they had their women on a very low plane. So, you know, and they treated their women really badly. So they considered their women as a possession, as these other things, like the house and the cattle and all that. So to put that in there, don't covet your wife, is okay for them, because like they can't see anything different. Yeah, she's wife, she, you know, the house and all that stuff. Yeah, she fits in there with that. So they don't see things the way the Most High sees them. So we have to be really careful with, you know, the way that we have been groomed in the colonizers' thinking, and the way that we have been raised in it. It's so, you know, they have raised us in their ways. And so now that we are learning Tatanzambi's way, and we are learning his laws, his real laws, his real statutes and commandments, the way he really wants us to live. Now we have to realize we have to drop off all those ways that we thought were the right thing, and put on the new things that really are the right thing. And when you look at it, there's a whole lot of stuff we gotta let go. A whole lot of stuff. We, you know, it's like coming into the truth and learning about the lies. You can't believe how many lies there were. It's like everything I learned was a lie. And that's true, you know. So we have to let it go. As soon as we learn the right thing, let go that other stuff. Let go that other stuff that we learned, because that is not of the Most High. And it resonates within your being, because it makes you realize, you know, yeah, when we grew up, and you, as you learn things in life, you realize, you know, it's not good to look after other people's things and want what they have. It's better to get your own. And, you know, get your own, as it says in the law further down. It says, don't covet them, but get your own and build your own. And that's what we should be doing. And, you know, that kind of resonates deep down within us. Oh, yes, I see, you know, one next door, they have so many things, and that's so wonderful. But let me see how I can get mine. Get yours, build on yours, make yours better, that you can have to give to your offspring coming up, so that you don't have to look at theirs. You know, don't look at it, don't covet it, don't want to get it. And, you know, like it says, don't try to steal it, don't try to outsmart them. None of this trickery, you know, all that stuff that we learned that they say is okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay. And that's not the way to do it. So I thank you. I thank you for, you know, letting us go into these commandments, because it's really important, and we really need to know the right way to do things. Thank you, Elder Ngeta.
Thank you so much, Mama Shelley. Wow.
And get
Yes, absolutely. You are right on the money. I think they hid this information because we would call them out, you know. And now is the time for us to start calling them out, you know. So I had a few points wanted to make about the way it talked about in this commandment that thy desire shall not be upon them to take them by stealth, nor by fraud, nor by cunning, nor by violence. Okay, let me just touch on the stealth. We'll come to those other ones later. So, how has the enemy been trying to take things from Isolele by stealth so as to avoid detection, so that we don't know that they're doing this? So one way they've been doing this, and I'll talk about ways they've done it in the past, ways they've done it currently, and even probably they'll want to do it in the future. One of the ways they did this is by giving African countries bad loans, draconian loans, illegal loans that should not have been loans in the first place. Okay? So countries like France are on record having made several West African countries pay them for the development that France did when it was colonizing those countries, for the infrastructure they built, for example. They say you have to pay us X amount of money and we'll be taking this from you at this interest rate going into the future. So you grow up as an West African, then you come to learn that you owe France so much money. This is by stealth. They just put it down before you are even born, and now you're paying for it indirectly. Another way that they do this, the British have perfected this one, and a few other countries, is they create what they call conservancies. So for example, in Kenya, there's a lot of land, hundreds of thousands of acres that are wildlife parks or wildlife conservancies. They say there's this endangered animal, this bird, and whatever other animals, and they mark out an area and they have activities, a lot of celebrities. You can look this up. They have these areas demarcated and owned and controlled by foreigners, especially in Kenya, like the British. But what is really going on in these areas is that they're minerals. And they even have airstrips in those areas. And they will fly in planes and fly out with our minerals. They're stealing our inheritance. They're stealing stuff from our land. But it's undercover. We don't know about it. Another one is that they even have training grounds where the military will come and do their training exercises. One of those training grounds in Kenya is in a place called Nanyuki, which is just on the slopes of Mount Kenya. Now, if you know anything about minerals, a lot of minerals, high-value minerals, are found in volcanic areas. Mount Kenya is a volcanic mountain. Why have they been practicing and training there since pre-independence? And they're still doing that practicing and training there. Why don't they go practice out in the desert areas where they can blow up their munitions and other things without interfering with the nice wildlife in that area? This is working under stealth. There's another one, the last one before I hand over to somebody else. This one doubles up as stealth as well as fraud. A lot of our leaders in Africa have foreign accounts. And those foreign accounts are for them to be paid and to hide away money that we cannot detect, so that on the face of it, they can look like they're honest people of integrity, but they're receiving payments from foreign nations, from foreign companies, as part of corruption, and they go undetected, and we wonder why they're acting in the interest of other foreign powers instead of our interests. It's because they're acting under stealth with these foreign accounts in tax havens. Not recently, but a few years ago, there was an expose of what is called the Panama Papers. If you just Google it, you'll see it. And you can Google and say which African leaders or which prominent personalities were mentioned in these papers. So you will see the names of those companies. Why do you create, if you're the president, let's say, of Kenya, why should you create a company and put it offshore in a tax haven and mask yourself as the owner? Why not have that account in your own country? Why does it have to be in a secret place? It's because you want to steal from the people, and you're stealing from them in conjunction with these foreigners. All right, let me go to Mama Emma. Let's go on. Mama Emma, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, just a minute. Let me get back to my position. I was in the kitchen. Because what sister was saying about stealth, it's like that's what stealth is, to pretend that they have a right. So they're operating, doing those things the way Matovi just described, under stealth, and the people believe that lie, and that's why they have cooperated all this time, because they under this God spell of this lie that we are the real people and we have a right to do this, and the only thing you have a right to do is to let us come in and take these resources, and they have, again, like I said, they put out this YouTube video by this professor, and that's what he said. The main thing that they are trying to do now, that we have awoken to the fact, as Sis was saying, that we are the real people, and that's not, and what we have been doing is not the way the Most High want us to guard the garden, which takes me back to the house. Okay, in the Hebrew, the word is bayit, and it means house or tent. And see, they changed it from tent because in the when it's talking about Abram, and when the Most High, even in Psalms, talks about the creation, he said he spread out it like a tent. So his creation is a place for a house, a place of residence for his creation. So I lost my original thing, so I'm trying to do this from memory. It always happens. And then I talked about it a little bit with Toby at the beginning. And we talked about the letter B, bet, meaning in or house or at, by, from. So it's also BETH. And also, we know the word Bethlehem, the house of bread. So all these things and these words are very, very important, not only concretely, but spiritually. There's a awesome connection between the spirituality, which is another thing they're trying to stealth from us, is African spirituality, and twisting that to mean exactly what they're doing. They're the one that twisted it. They're the ones that are demonic. They're the one who are stealing, killing, and destroying. And it goes back to inheritance. They have inherited what? Lies. They have inherited stealing, killing, all these things. So it's important to understand what the Most High is talking about, the house. And again, the house is, in the beginning, he said, have dominion and guard the garden. And so house also means womb. And so the woman is the womb, or human with a womb, human, womb man. So again, and again in the beginning it says Bereshit, in the beginning, or in a beginning. So all those words are contained in, all those meanings are contained in house. So, and the commandment says, let me go back to that page. What's the commandment say, Matovi? I can't get to it right quick.
Which part?
When it says about the house.
Oh, it says,
shall not
covet thy neighbor's house.
House, yes.
Know his bondman, know his bondwoman, know his manservant, know his woman servant, know his horse, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so it's put out in all those things, but all those extras after that is contained in that one word, house.
Yes.
Woman, man, servant, man servant, woman servant. And so what they have done is, again, the translators of our Bible, and remember the Bible is a collection of books about the scriptures, or specifically about the Bantu scrolls, which they call the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's like, that's another for another time. But anyway, so let me go back to this house page. Okay. Okay, so the fundamental meaning of the word bayit is an enclosure. So again, the Most High made an enclosure for us, and it was under the heavens, and it says he separated the waters from the waters, and we have the firmament. Okay, so we're under the firmament, an enclosure for keeping, safekeeping, or containing. So he was keeping us from what was before, or the pre-flood area. That's why I said he separated light from darkness. He separated the waters from the waters. Okay, and so now we're just talking about where we are today, but if we don't understand this, and we are starting to understand that that's why they were able to keep us blinded for so long. But the Most High says, no, you got to get your finger out of their eye, off of their land, and out of their beings, and see, then that, well, let me stay with house. I'm going to get into many things. Okay, so it does not denote a specific kind of building, but rather a function of container. So it's the same thing again, because Bayit is the physical place, the earth realm, but it's also us, because what? We are the temple of the spirit of the creator. and we were made from the elements that the earth was made from. And so we have to do with the function. So the function that we were supposed to do was to be the praise of the Most High in the earth, being an example of him. And that's another thing that they have done in these commandments, that he says, have no other Elohims in my face. And they have made us believe that they are the Elohim and that we have been worshiping them. And it appears that we have, in a way, because we have been blinded, not understanding. See, not only blinding. So again, that comes in with the study about the eye is single, the pineal gland, all these things. And in that scripture, it says, if the eye is single, how much light? The whole body is full of light. But if it has been damaged, then how much darkness? So you see how these words, and how the house, thou shalt not covet. Okay, so again, who is he talking to? Because he's talking to the seed of the fallen angels. And then go back to Cain. He was talking to Cain when he said, sin is crouching at your door, but you can overcome it. Okay. And I often used to wonder why it says, and you divide the angels, they defile themselves with the women. It's like, okay, if the Most High, if the women are the ones that they lusted after, and we are made in his image and his likeness, why are they defiling? How is it that they defile themselves? Because they're the ones who are husbanding us. So again, it's like, we have to make sure who is saying these things. Is it the Most High creator of the universe? Or is the Most High who said, I will make myself like the Most High and do these things? Okay, so this is a thing that's happening right now in Kenya. Okay, remember what it said? They came down where? Mount Hermon. Okay, so what are they doing? Again, they still trying to do that. And then how are they doing that? Another way they want to steal that is LBJ, the rainbow, plus. Okay, what's in the news recently? I saw this one man who appeared, as far as I'm concerned, it seemed like he appeared out of nowhere, Elon Musk. And then I found out he was born in Africa. His father and mother, I think, probably still live there. And all his money, stealth money, blood stolen, violence. And he has a daughter, which is a son. And now he's realizing, lies that he have inherited, but he hadn't, really confessed it yet. So he disowned his daughter because it was a son who is transgender. So then they fight. Okay, so again, the Most High is doing his things, like they will destroy themselves. So anyway, let's see what else I want to say about the house. It talks about, like I said, it's not a specific kind of building, but rather the function or container of. And it also describes ships. So it's talking about ships now. And so the reference for that, the ship's hull, is Genesis 6:14, which probably is, and I didn't look this up. Like I said, I lost my original page, but this is some additional information. So it's probably talking about the slaves that were transported. So we can look at Genesis 6:14 as a reference for that. And then Exodus 25:11, Exodus 37:2, 1 Kings 7:9. And it gives a Hebrew word, which I can't read. Let me see. Yeah.
Mama Emma, give me those scriptures again, and then I'll put them in the chat.
Okay, Genesis 6:14,
Mm-hmm.
Exodus 25:11, and 37:2, 1 Kings 7:9, and that was the last one.
Okay.
So anyway, it's written in Hebrew, the ship's hull, and it means on the outer housing. So anywhere, again, those things that are being manifested in ways that they are stealthing, violating, stealing, transporting, and these and it's also connected with neighbor. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna stop on that, but there's so much more in that word house.
All right. I'm gonna pick up on what you're talking about, the house. So you mentioned the word for the letter B, or the word for house in the concordance is bayet or bet. Interestingly, the word for home or household or house of in a lot of Bantu cultures is the word baito, or it sounds like bayet, okay? It means the same thing, tent. You know, like when you read the scriptures and you hear Abraham moved his tent, or you hear something like the house of David. It's not referring to the physical building. It's referring to the people who came out of the loins of Abraham, or the people who came out of the loins of David. So that's why you can say, I'm looking for such and such a person. And they'll ask you, whose son is that? Or whose daughter is that? And then you mention a name, maybe of a grandfather. That's the house. That's the community of people descendant from that person. So even in my culture, for example, amongst the Kamba people, they will say the word baito. I put it here in the chat. That baito means those ours, those who are ours. And it's referring to all Kamba people because they all came from one ancestor. So the Mbaito is the house of the Kamba people. Interestingly, it sounds like Bayet, Baito, Bet. You'll find in a lot of Bantu cultures that there's a prefix of Ba or Bet or Aba, and it means house of. For example, Batswana is the house of Tswana or the tent of Tswana. There are many communities. Elder Kennedy, who is not here today, is from a community called Abaluya, the house of Luya. Okay, I was explaining this to Mama Emma before we got started. In my culture, Abraham is written as Avalam, Avalam. Avalam. The V is pronounced as a B because we didn't have the letter V. We pronounced it as a B, Avalam. That's how you pronounce Abraham, Avalam. When his name was changed, it became Avalaam. So after the L, you have a double A. And that makes it a possessive noun. What does he possess? Everybody that comes from him. Remember, his name was changed because he would be made a father of many nations or multitude. So now he became Avalam. Abba is the same thing as Bet, which is the house of. I can absolutely assure you that you're not going to get this etymology in that other land with those other people. You're not going to get it, but you will find it amongst all Bantu languages, all Bantu cultures. You're going to find the same kind of nomenclature, whether it just starts with Ba, like Botswana, or whether it starts with Abba, like Abraham. You're going to have the same variation. Now, let's talk about a little bit about the fact that they were committing fraud. Remember, we talked about stealth. The other one was fraud. Okay. So what fraud have they been committing in the past, in the present, and they're trying to commit it going forward? The first piece of fraud is that they are coveting our inheritance of our history. See, we are Isolele, but they have been projecting through Judaism, through Christianity, through Islam, that they are the children of promise. They have taken the history records and modified them, including the scriptures in the Bible, so that the scriptures say Abraham went south of Egypt, but they tell us from the pulpits that the land he went to is north of Egypt. So they've corrupted the history in an endeavor to commit this fraud such that the majority of people in the world believe the lie instead of the truth. They have also taken evidence of this history as being ours out of the land and planted it elsewhere so that they claim that that is where these events occurred. They've also stolen our identity. They've stolen our identity. You know, they did not get enslaved and scattered all across the world, just like Deuteronomy says in verse 6, chapter 28, verse 64. Yet they want to say they are the Jews. If you are the Jews, when were you scattered to all parts of the world? When were you enslaved to where you had shackles of iron on your necks? Where is the evidence? We don't see that. They've also, in the present day, they're committing a fraud by using the education systems to tell this history according to their viewpoint. In many places, like in Kenya and other British colonies, the education systems may still be British-based systems. They'll have lessons where they have a class where they teach you about Christianity. So they want you to be a well-done Christian according to their viewpoint. And their viewpoint says, those people over there in that land that we created in 1948 are the chosen people. They don't want you to learn what is in the scriptures. So they're modifying the education system in the schools. Okay? They're giving you the religion in the schools. And then in addition to that, they're also modifying the education system through the churches. Through the churches. When you walk into any church, whether it's a Catholic church or Methodist church or Baptist church, if you find an image of the so-called Jesus Christ, and it is an image of a white person, they have committed a fraud because the scriptures do not describe him as a white person. Moreover, they have violated the first commandment, not to make idols. Talks about that in the first commandment when it says, love the Lord your God, and so on. So they're committing a fraud, and they keep committing the fraud through all, let me call it, religious institutions that portray Isaiah as a white person. Oh boy, you can tell I've got a lot on my chest. Okay, let me see. Anybody have some comments before I go on to the next topic? Now, I wanted to show you something about Mount Hermon because Mama Emma brought this out very well. Oh, I see Mama Emma's hand. Mama Emma, go ahead. I'll come back to it. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, that's
Okay.
good. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to share on my screen here something about Mount Hermon. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. So this is the word Hermon. Can you all see my screen? I'm on the Blue Letter Bible. It's showing Hermon. Thank you. So when you look up the word Hermon in the scriptures and you open it, you get to this word here, H2768, and it just describes it as Hermon, a sanctuary. Okay. Now it's a mountain. Forget this commentary. They're trying to tell us where it goes. It's a mountain. Okay. Now, when you go deeper into the root word for Hermon, pronounced as harmony, you get to the word haram. Okay? Haram. Now, I'm a Swahili speaker. Swahili is a mixture of Bantu languages and Arabic. I knew the word haram from when I was a little kid, and I knew it because the Muslims around us who are from the Arabian culture or Arabian area use the word haram, this is it, okay, to describe something that is not allowed according to Islamic law. Now, remember, this is the root word for Hermon. Here it says anything that is forbidden by Islamic law. So they consider it, for example, to be forbidden to eat foods that have not been slaughtered in a certain manner, right? It's haram to eat something that is not prepared according to the manner prescribed by Islamic law. If something is haram, the word itself has a meaning of it is something illegal, it is something immoral, it is something that is forbidden that you're doing. The opposite of haram is halali, meaning it's legit. Okay? So my point here is, why is the Mount Hermon associated with something forbidden? Mama Emma just explained to us that this is where those angelic beings came by and looked upon women and lusted and coveted them. So there is where they performed the first haram. They did the first forbidden thing. It was around that mountain or on that mountain. You can see here the meaning says to burn, to devote, destroy utterly, to prohibit. It's something that you shouldn't be doing. That is where the name comes from. Now, in the scriptures, in the Strong's definition, I came across this to be blunt as to the nose. This description is also in the book, I believe it's either the book of Enoch or the book of Jasher, where it describes the Mount Hermon as looking like a nose. So it's not pointed, it's flat. I think Mount Hermon might be Mount Kilimanjaro. That's just my thought, my opinion. I can come back with why I think of that, but I think it might be that. Now look at the book of Enoch, talking about Mount Hermon, okay? First of all, it says this here. It's giving us the story about these angelic beings that came and did bad stuff. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose as wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Semjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear you will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath and bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And there were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are their names. Okay? So this Mount Hermon is where they descended upon. And this Mount Hermon is associated with doing something that was banned, doing something that was forbidden. Okay? That's the word haram, Hermon. That's where it's derived from. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you and get you guys about that. Like to hear your thoughts about that. Go ahead, Mama Emma. Go ahead, Mama Emma. You might be on mute, Mama Emma, if you're speaking.
Yes, in addition to what you were saying earlier about speaking the word biat, bet, and how they changed the ba to va, and earlier some of my studies with other groups is like Volkswagen. Wow. It's a W. We say W, but it's two V's.
Double.
Because it's Germanic. Yeah.
It's
so
double V.
Yeah, double V. Volkswagen. And they couldn't say that. So that's why they changed Abram's name when you're studying it. And they'll say it's a V instead of a B. But as we've concluded, based on the sounds and in your original language, because you grew up with that. And see, and then the other thing that came to mind on that was Jew, jewels. And so, not having done a study on that, but it's like, okay, so that's probably where they got that word from, jewels, because we are the Creator's jewels. And those are some of the things that they are stealing, those minerals. And remember also the I think it was in I can't remember if it was the book of Adam and Eve or the patriarchs. We talked about the staff that they had, and they call it the stick. Excuse me.
Sorry.
But it was the instrument that it said that the Most High used to create the earth, and it had this particular stone on it. So that's another thing that came to mind. Is like jewels, and again how they were stealing that through Judaism. And so again, because we're so blinded, and some still are, we call it sleep or not awake. But again, it's wearing off. That gospel is wearing off. Yeah, that's all that I had on that. But I wanted to go to the next thing, which is let's see, where is it? Oh, I had a scripture which was not Exodus, Psalms 127:7. I'm sorry. Psalms 127:1.
Okay.
Unless Sanini Nanini builds the house, he who I was trying to quote it from memory, but I'm getting it all wrong. Okay, so let me just pull it up right quick.
I'll pull it up.
I got it right here.
Okay.
I don't have it right here.
I put it there. It says, except the Lord build a house, they labor in vain that build it. Except
Okay, so
the Lord
see
keep
what's happening. That's where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to maintain this house that they have built by stealth, by fraud, by all of those other synonyms, cunning, violence. And so they failed at all these other things. So now they're down to strictly violence. Strictly violence. And like in one of our other, I think it was 9, it's easy to steal by killing. Because then you don't have any evidence left. See, they kill the fathers and the mothers, and then you have the youth in between that they just lost. And so it's easier to, again, keep them blinded to their inheritance. At least that's what they thought. But see, again, the Most High says enough is enough, and he will have a people. And that was the other thing I wanted to talk about, mention when you was explaining about that word. It's like, and the Bible says, my people, Bantu, my people. And see, and that's the thing. It's like, I don't understand why my people, why his people, why the people don't understand that Bantu means my people. And we keep saying we are his people, but you're refusing to focus on Bantu. And what people's language has been stolen through, as you were saying, education. Again, it's that residue of sibling rivalry, jealousy, hatred. What our scripture tells us, hatred is murder in your heart. If you hate your brother, you have murder. And so again, it goes back to the original neighbor, the original creation that the Most High made. He made creation to live in harmony, including the angelic beings. But what they had to do was watch over this new creation that the Most High put in the earth to rule the earth realm that was destroyed by his original creation. So, he's taking it back to that. But in order to get back to that, we have to take back the land. We can't do any of these other things without the land. Okay, and the enemy realizes that. The stealth people realize that. The one who is posing as that's stolen our identity. See, that's what they're trying to hold on to. But again, now they realize, okay, they failed at all these other things, and they're kind of failing at the violence too, to a certain extent, because it's, that's their weapon of warfare. Our weapon of warfare is the word. When we speak, when we agree with who we are children of the light, not of darkness. And as long as we keep rising up toward that, then they can't stand in the face of true light. And so they resort to the only thing that they know, weapons. So anyway, that was the other thing. Let's see if there was something else. Okay, and then, as I was ending up my studies earlier today, and it's like, came across this word criminal. Let me see how I came to that. Okay, because, okay, what I said is the Most High is against thee. Okay, so in the Bible, the script reads, thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's house, original, a beginning. And then I went on again from that, which I've already talked about, the fallen angels, Enoch, modern, and how it's continuing in the modern day, their sons and daughters of the fallen. They gave us the Biblos or the Bibles and took our land. Okay, so criminal, one who commits a crime. Simple definition is the simple definition. What is a crime? Okay, we're talking about it now. They are criminals. Okay. So then I look this up. Oh, this is good. I hope my thing works right. Okay. Ugh. Oh shucks. Somebody go on and then I'll pull this up.
All right, Nick, go ahead. Thank you, Mama Emma.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the Moanda was saying to me that when we start to wake up, the Bantus and the Solele start to wake up, that is when it will be our time. At this moment of time, we're not wake. A lot of us have not waken up, especially in Africa. They haven't woken up yet. The prophets are waiting for us to wake up, and then it'll be our time. Until this deception is being caught, and this deception is being caught through this 10th commandment. This is the commandment. When they see this commandment here, the 10th commandment, then they should be able to wake up. And when they do wake up, then it's over. That's what the Most High is waiting for. He's waiting for us to wake up. And even though there's a few of us that have woken already, it just needs to be shared. And I think our Tokoist Sakima brothers and sisters, when they come back, hopefully they get that message, and that they too will start to spread that message through the Book of Law, because the Book of Law is the most important one that we needed to share to the world. And I think that if we had, some of us had discussed it, and it probably has been discussed over there already, over in Angola. And I think that's what Miyamona is talking about. It's time to move forward. And the other thing I was, the Moanda was telling me about the mountain that you were talking about, Kilimanjaro. I just seen, you just said to me, my brother, you're right. You're right. I just seen it, and the message came through to me was like, Brother Mutabi, you're exactly right. And because we're going to go back to when you said haram, because it's the forbidden mountain. And when the Muslims say haram, they don't really realize, well, they know what it means, but they don't know where it came from. And it came from where the fallen angels came down, the 200 of them. So that's what the Moanda was just telling me. In Gita, my brother.
Geta.
In Geta. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Brother Nick, for that confirmation. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. You don't know what that means. That means a lot. That means a lot. We're going to come back to that. We are going to come back to that. Mama Emma, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to mention about when Sister Shelley, I think it was Sister Shelley, that mentioned about the horse. And then you talked about, well, why the horse and then the ox. Okay, where did the horses come from? When the scripture tells us, he said, they will come on a horde of horses. Okay, the original, again, the example was the olive, which represents the ox. And then I was always thinking about that. It's like, okay, but pre-Adamic time, they ate everything. Okay, then when we get the Bible and start studying, and then we learn about the Indians in America, what animal did they destroy? The buffalo. And the picture that they give us of the ox in all of our things is the buffalo face. It's not the ox. Okay, and then you have the ox at the stock exchange. Okay, and then at the mountain you have the Apis bull. Okay, when I guess it was the last celebration of the queen, some kind of thing that they had, and they was bringing in.
It was the Commonwealth Games where they displayed a bull.
Yeah. Okay, that's exactly what I was getting to.
And they were
So
worshiping it.
Yeah. So all of these things, it's like I said, each one of these words, we can't just take it as a word or as we see it. We have to look behind it. What and Matova, like you said, you brought that out. It's like, okay, it says horse here, but over here it says ox. It's like, okay. And then Shelley was saying something about the horse and said, that's why the horse, they put emphasis on horses. And you remember even in the testimony of Abraham. So, and then it was referred to as a burden of beast of burden, or something like that. But anyway, it's like, okay. So criminal, that's the other thing that, okay, I looked it up and I looked it up and it says, it's spelled Yod Va Pay. And it's spelled out in English as Uazar. That's the transliteration of it. And the first meaning is criminal, guilty, strange, stranger, foreigner. And there was something else that was tying in with our lesson that leads to the I don't see it. But like I said, this came in at the very end. It's like, oh, shucks. That word means criminal, and criminal means someone who's guilty of a crime. Okay, and it leads back again to those specific things because I asked myself the question of what modern people today exhibit these characteristics. And it took me to that, but like I said, trying to navigate my pages is kind of challenging. So I don't have that information exactly here. But when I find it, I will share it.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Let me mention some two items. So you mentioned something about my people, those scriptures that refer to solely as my people, and I thought about, imagine when you read about, or when anybody reads about Moses going to Pharaoh and saying, let my people go. Everybody knows that story was happening in Egypt, right? Which people do you find in Egypt? It's Africans. Which people have been found in Egypt for thousands of years? It was Africans. They were Black people. So when a Christian reads that story and it says, let my people go, they need to understand that the people being called my people were Africans in Africa, in a place called Egypt. Okay? Now, the fraud that has been perpetrated by the Eurocentric nations and religions is the fraud that says that the Egyptians and the people who are being called my people were European or Caucasian people. That is a fraud. That is a fraud. And you've seen it with a lot of people who will tell you, oh, the Egyptians of that time were mixed, blah, blah, blah. No, it's a fraud. We have the history books. In fact, the United Nations put up a conference in 1974, a UNESCO conference. And there were experts like Sheikh Anta Diop and many others, Teofilo Benga, and they met with their scholarly counterparts from different parts of the world, and they put that issue to bed. The issue of the ancient Egyptians was put to bed. They were Black. Neither were they interacting with Caucasian Israelites. They were interacting with Black, so-called Black people. So we have to wake up to the fact that my people in the scriptures refers to a Black people, not any other people. Now, let me talk about this fraud, and let me expose some of this fraud and what we have to do to gain this information to overcome this fraud. I'm going to share a picture here of a book that I encourage anybody watching this. Get a copy of this book or just go online, look for this author. You'll find a lot of videos, even on YouTube, where he's talking about Black people having discovered or having been in North America, in South America, before Columbus. And you will see when you read more about this book or watch the videos, you will notice that these people who were in North America before Columbus, a lot of them, they left a lot of evidence that traces them back not only to Africa, but to specific areas of Africa around Egypt. So what am I talking about? Let me share it here. So this is a book I recommend that you get to read. It's They Came Before Columbus, the African Presence in Ancient America. Some of you have seen these stones. They're called the Olmec heads that were found in northern part of Mexico. You can call it southern part of the US, but it's in the Gulf area, Gulf of Mexico area. Ivan van Sertima, that's the author. Look for his books, look for his videos, watch them. You will realize that the story that we've been told in our classrooms and in our churches and in the media, telling us that the Egyptians were Europeans or Caucasians, is a lie. There's evidence documented in this amongst other books and amongst other videos and other authors' publications or works. All right. Let me go back out of here. So it's good to counter it's good to counter fraud and lies and cunning and treachery with truth, because that's the easiest way to deal with it. Just put out the truth and people cannot argue with that, And if they have their truths, let them bring them. Then let's compare the notes. And as a human people or as humanity, man needs to move with what is truth and move forward with it. Okay, Brother Nick, go ahead. I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say about the Olmecs. I mean, my people, I've already known about the Olmecs because of our back in the ancient times, we traveled to South America because we had to get like I think we were going there for agriculture and stuff like that, and we were collecting food from the area. And the Olmecs came up, and when I look at their picture, I'm like, man, I'm looking at my old ancestors. I swear I'm looking at my old ancestors when I'm looking at that, looking at the Olmecs. But yeah, I think it's because in the ancient times, before the flood, that would have happened during those times, and they would have made great cities back in those days. Because I believe they would have been builder races. They would have been a builder race, and very technical, technological as well. So probably like during that time when the giants were around and stuff like that, and it's kind of in the time around Noah's time. So you're coming full circle back around again, and we're entering in the time of Noah again. We've got technology and stuff like that, but they're still trying to find out how did they make those cities in that. Well, there were giants back in the days, wasn't there? In Gita.
Oh, very good point. Very good point. I mean, when you look at these details, like Mama Emma said, you start to find the truth is just right there. It's just right there. I just looked up the word crime when Mama Emma was talking about criminal. And the word crime in the concordance is zima. It originates from the word zamam. The word zima in Swahili means to extinguish, like the way you extinguish a light or a candle. Now, why would that word also mean crime? When you extinguish a candle, you're going into darkness, right? Because the candle is there to provide you light. So you're committing a crime by hiding the light and doing things in the dark. Why would, I mean, they can try to hide this stuff, but they just can't. You know, it's so obvious. Now, let me go back to the topic about the horses. I didn't even think about this until Mama Emma, you mentioned it. You know, the book of the law says a horse or an ass or a donkey. But the scriptures in the Bible use the word ox. Now, let's just think here for a second chronologically, right? You have Abraham, and then you have Isaac, his son, and then you have Jacob, his grandson, right? Now, Jacob's children, 12 tribes of Israel, those are the people or their children, Jacob's grandchildren are the ones who are being given these laws, the book of the law, right? Now, if Abraham, let's call him their great-grandfather, if Abraham had horses, it goes without say that Isaac knew about horses, and so did Jacob, right? And so did the descendants of Jacob. Now, they may have also known about oxes, right? I'm not denying that, but it makes sense that the Most High would be telling them about a horse when he's talking about the book of the law, right? And then it mentions a horse and a carriage. You know, these things are very significant. A carriage indicates a mode of transportation that you can use to carry goods and other things. They had this level of sophistication or technology, if you want to call it. And it was not new, by the way, because David also had a cart that he tried to pull the ark on, to put the ark of the covenant on and carry it with that. So why would they hide this information from us? It's because they don't want us to know that our ancestors had these technologies. They were able to move around. They could move their stuff on using a horse. They could transport themselves. They could go from one place to another place because a horse can cover a long distance, And then if you have a carriage, it means you can move your whole house, But then instead, they just want to tell us about a donkey and an ox. So they're telling us these guys were restricted to doing the things that you can only do with an ox, with a cow. It's in the details that we find these things. Think about it. We wouldn't know that Abraham had horses if we didn't read the Testament of Abraham. And they didn't give us the Testament of Abraham in the scriptures in the Bible. That was deliberate, Did they create the horse? No, the Most High created it. Yes, Michael, the details are the keys. The details are indeed the keys. Now, Mount Kilimanjaro is the second highest mountain in the world after Mount Everest. I think that would be a suitable place for those demonic spirits and those angels to try and hide away from the rest of humans. Because way back then, it was probably unlikely that many humans would go up the mountain. So these angels had a place, a habitation that they felt somewhat secure from humanity. And we know from when we did a study on, I think it was when we were studying Mount Carmel, we know that the Mount Hermon in modern day Israel is not a mountain, it's a hill. It's a hill. A mountain is described, I think, as being above 600 and something meters. The one there was barely over 500 meters. It's a hill. It's not a mountain. So we're not having a conversation about that part of the world. All right, Ingeta.
Ingeta. And it's actually in the land of Africa. And when you're talking about the horses, why did God save the horses and the animals for? Why did Noah save the animals for? Because he knew that during the time of Moses that he would need certain animals to help them carry what they needed, because they had to restart again in that time and during those times. So that was another thing that the Moanda was telling me about, because they had to have these horses there, and because Noah saved them, so they had to restart. And that the ark is not in Turkey, because how can the animals of Africa walk from Turkey all the way into Africa? It's kind of like they think we're stupid. You know what I mean, Brother Mutabi? We're not stupid people. And I would say that because, God shows us these.
Absolutely.
Natata Nazambi shows us these things.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, let me do this. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful.